10. Whaley House, San Diego, California. Located in Old Town San Diego, the Whaley House is often cited as one of the most haunted houses in the United States. Built in 1857 by Thomas Whaley, the house served multiple purposes including a family residence, granary, courthouse, and general store. The architecture is a fine example of mid-19th century Greek Revival style, and it has been preserved as a museum. Thomas Whaley was a prominent businessman. He moved to California during the gold rush and later settled in San Diego. The house was built on the site of a former gallows where criminals were executed. This has contributed to its haunted reputation. Here are some hauntings and paranormal activities. Yankee Jim Robinson. One of the most infamous ghosts is Yankee Jim, a convicted thief who was hanged on the property before the house was built. Visitors and staff have reported hearing his heavy footsteps. Thomas Whaley. The ghost of Thomas Whaley himself is said to haunt the house. Visitors claim to see a man in a frock coat and top hat, resembling his description. Anna Whaley. Thomas Whaley's wife, Anna, is also believed to haunt the house. Her spirit is often sensed in the garden or seen weeping. Violet Whaley. One of the Whaley daughters, Violet, tragically committed suicide in the house after a failed marriage. Her melancholy presence is felt in the rooms, and some have reported hearing her crying. The smell of perfume. Many visitors have reported smelling Anna Whaley's favorite French perfume in the parlor, even when no one else is around. Children's spirits. The laughter and footsteps of children are sometimes heard, even though there are no children present. This is believed to be the spirits of the Whaley children who died young. Specific paranormal events. The Red Room. This room was used for various purposes, including as a courtroom and granary. Visitors report feeling sudden chills, hearing unexplained noises, and experiencing a sense of dread. The Music Room. In this room, a small music box is sometimes heard playing by itself. The Courtroom. Used for judicial proceedings, people have reported hearing the sounds of a gavel and murmurs of a crowd. The upstairs bedrooms. Cold spots, disembodied voices, and apparitions are frequently reported in these rooms. Notable sightings. Many guests have reported seeing full-bodied apparitions that vanish upon approach. Faces appearing in windows when the house is empty have been photographed and documented. Investigations. Numerous paranormal investigation teams have explored the house, recording various phenomena such as EVPs, electronic voice phenomena, temperature fluctuations, and unexplained electromagnetic readings. The Whaley House's haunted reputation has made it a cultural icon in San Diego. It has been featured in numerous television shows, documentaries, and articles on the paranormal. 9. Villisca Axe Murder House, Villisca, Iowa. The Villisca Axe Murder House is one of the most infamous haunted locations in the United States. Situated in the small town of Villisca, Iowa, this house became the site of a gruesome murder that shocked the nation in the early 20th century. The events that transpired here have left a lasting mark, leading many to believe that the house is haunted by the spirits of those who perished. On the night of June 9, 1912, the quiet town of Villisca was shattered by a horrific crime. The Moore family, Josiah, his wife Sarah, and their 4 children, welcomed 2 young friends, Lena and Ina Stillinger, for a sleepover. By morning, all 8 were brutally murdered by an unknown assailant wielding an axe. The following morning, a neighbor became concerned when she noticed that the Moores hadn't come out to do their morning chores. She alerted Josiah's brother, Ross, who discovered the bodies. All victims were found in their beds, bludgeoned beyond recognition. The scene was horrifying. The ceilings and walls were splattered with blood, and the faces of the victims had been covered with bedclothes. The investigation into the murders was extensive but ultimately inconclusive. Several suspects were considered, including a traveling preacher named Reverend George Kelly, who was tried twice but never convicted. Other suspects included a local businessman, Frank F. Jones, who had a rivalry with Josiah Moore, and a transient worker named William Mansfield. Despite these efforts, the case remains unsolved, shrouded in mystery and speculation. Due to the violent nature of the crime and the mystery surrounding it, many believe that the house is haunted. Visitors and paranormal investigators have reported a wide range of supernatural occurrences. Some of the most common reports include: people have claimed to see ghostly figures, including the spirits of the children and a shadowy male figure. Unexplained noises, such as footsteps, children's voices, and the sound of a falling axe, have been heard. Items in the house reportedly move on their own, doors open and close without reason, and lights flicker. Electronic voice phenomena, or EVPs, have been recorded, capturing disembodied voices that seem to respond to questions. Sudden drops in temperature, often associated with the presence of spirits, are frequently experienced. The house has gained significant media attention over the years. It has been featured on various paranormal television shows, including Ghost Adventures, Paranormal Lockdown, and Scariest Places on Earth. These shows have documented numerous paranormal investigations, each adding to the lore of the house's haunted reputation. Today, the Villisca Axe Murder House is a popular tourist attraction. It is preserved in the same condition as it was in 1912, providing a chilling experience for visitors. The house offers daytime tours where guides recount the history and hauntings. For the more daring, overnight stays are available, allowing guests to experience the eerie atmosphere firsthand. Many who have stayed in the house overnight recount terrifying experiences. Stories of waking up to find a figure standing at the end of the bed, hearing whispers in the dark, and feeling an oppressive presence are not uncommon. These personal accounts add to the mystique and fear surrounding the house. 8. The LaLaurie Mansion, New Orleans, Louisiana. The LaLaurie Mansion is one of the most infamous and haunted locations in New Orleans. Situated in the French Quarter, this mansion has a history of horror and intrigue that dates back to the early 19th century. Owned by Madame Delphine LaLaurie, the mansion became notorious due to her heinous acts and the reported hauntings that followed. Built in 1832, the mansion was home to the wealthy and influential LaLaurie family. Madame Delphine LaLaurie, known for her social grace and hospitality, was a prominent figure in New Orleans society. Her third marriage was to Dr. Leonard Louis LaLaurie, and together they lived in the Grand House on Royal Street. In 1834, a fire broke out at the LaLaurie Mansion, leading to the discovery of the gruesome realities hidden within. Neighbors and rescuers responding to the fire found a 70-year-old enslaved woman chained to the stove in the kitchen, who had started the fire in a desperate attempt to escape. This led them to explore the attic, where they discovered the horrifying torture chamber. The attic was found to contain several enslaved people in appalling conditions. Reports described individuals who were malnourished, mutilated, and subjected to cruel medical experiments. The tales of their suffering included limbs being stretched or removed, bodies being pierced with sharp objects, and faces disfigured beyond recognition. This revelation shocked the local community and cemented the mansion's reputation for horror. The news of Madame LaLaurie's cruelty spread rapidly, and an angry mob formed outside the mansion. The LaLauries managed to escape before they could face justice, allegedly fleeing to France. The mansion was subsequently looted and vandalized, leaving it in a state of disrepair. Since the atrocities were uncovered, the LaLaurie Mansion has been the subject of numerous ghost stories and paranormal investigations. Many visitors and residents have reported experiencing eerie phenomena. Apparitions of enslaved individuals, sometimes seen in chains, are reported to wander the house and courtyard. Unexplained noises such as footsteps, cries, and whispers are commonly heard. Some visitors report hearing the sounds of tortured souls, including groans and screams. Sudden drops in temperature, particularly in the attic and slave quarters, have been frequently noted, adding to the chilling atmosphere. Some visitors claim to have been touched, pushed, or scratched by unseen forces while touring the mansion. The mansion's dark history has made it a focal point for horror enthusiasts and paranormal investigators. It has been featured in numerous books, documentaries, and TV shows. One notable mention is in the third season of the TV series, American Horror Story, Coven, where Madame LaLaurie's character is portrayed by Kathy Bates. 7. The Crescent Hotel, Eureka Springs, Arkansas. The Crescent Hotel, located in Eureka Springs, Arkansas, is often referred to as America's most haunted hotel. Built in 1886, this Victorian-style hotel has a rich history that contributes to its haunted reputation. The hotel initially served as a luxurious resort for the rich and famous but faced financial difficulties. By 1908, it transformed into the Crescent College and Conservatory for young women. This school operated for a few years before it too closed down. The building stood empty for several years until it was bought by Norman Baker in 1937, a significant figure in the hotel's haunted history. Norman Baker was a notorious charlatan and self-proclaimed doctor who had no medical training. He turned the Crescent Hotel into a hospital, claiming to have a cure for cancer. Desperate patients flocked to Baker's hospital, hoping for a miracle cure. Unfortunately, Baker's treatments were nothing more than a scam, and many patients died under his care. This dark period of the hotel's history has left an indelible mark, contributing to its haunted reputation. Many guests and staff members have reported strange occurrences and ghostly sightings over the years. One of the most famous ghosts is that of Michael, an Irish stonemason who worked on the hotel's construction. Michael fell to his death in what is now room 218, which is said to be the most haunted room in the hotel. Guests who stay in room 218 often report hearing strange noises, seeing ghostly apparitions, and experiencing other unexplained phenomena. Another well-known ghost is Theodora, who is believed to have been a cancer patient during Baker's time. Theodora is often seen outside room 419, fumbling for her keys or tidying up. She is described as a friendly spirit who means no harm to the hotel's guests. Morris, the hotel's resident cat, is another spectral presence that adds to the Crescent Hotel's haunted ambience. Morris was the hotel's pet in the 1970s and is said to still roam the halls, especially around the hotel's old morgue, now a popular spot for ghost tours. The hotel's basement, which housed Baker's morgue and autopsy table, is another hotspot for paranormal activity. Visitors and staff have reported seeing shadowy figures, hearing disembodied voices, and feeling an unexplainable coldness in the area. The basement also contains a room known as the doctor's office, where Baker's medical instruments and jars filled with mysterious contents were discovered. These artifacts further add to the eerie atmosphere of the hotel. In addition to these specific spirits, there are numerous reports of other ghostly figures and unexplained events throughout the hotel. Guests have reported seeing a man in Victorian clothing in the dining room, hearing children's laughter in the hallways, and even seeing a nurse pushing a gurney down the hallway of the second floor. The Crescent Hotel embraces its haunted reputation, offering ghost tours that take visitors through the most haunted parts of the hotel, including the infamous room 218 and the basement morgue. These tours provide a fascinating glimpse into the hotel's eerie past and allow guests to experience its haunted history firsthand. 6. Alcatraz Island, San Francisco, California. Alcatraz Island, located in the chilly waters of San Francisco Bay, is renowned for its infamous history as a federal penitentiary. Beyond its well-documented past, Alcatraz has earned a reputation as one of the most haunted places in America. Stories of eerie encounters, ghostly apparitions, and unexplained phenomena have intrigued and frightened many. Alcatraz, often referred to as the Rock, began its storied history long before it became a prison. Originally, it was a military fortification and then a military prison. By 1934, it was transformed into a maximum security federal penitentiary, designed to hold the most notorious and dangerous criminals, including the likes of Al Capone and Robert Stroud, the Birdman of Alcatraz. Paranormal activities. 1. Cell Block D. One of the most infamous spots on the island is Cell Block D, particularly cells 11, 12, and 14D. These cells, known as the Hole, were used for solitary confinement. Inmates placed here often reported feeling a chilling presence. One story tells of an inmate who screamed throughout the night that something with glowing eyes was in the cell with him. The next morning, he was found dead with a terrified expression on his face, and no cause of death could be determined. 2. Utility Corridor. The Utility Corridor is another hotspot for paranormal activity. This area was the site of a failed escape attempt in 1946, known as the Battle of Alcatraz. During this violent event, 3 inmates and 2 correctional officers were killed. Visitors and staff have reported hearing the clanging of metal and disembodied voices in this corridor, as if the past is replaying itself. 3. Warden's House. The Warden's House, now in ruins, has its own share of ghostly tales. Visitors have reported seeing the apparitions of former wardens and their families, as well as hearing the sounds of parties and gatherings, despite the building being abandoned for decades. 4. Alcatraz Lighthouse. The lighthouse on Alcatraz is the oldest operating lighthouse on the west coast. It is said that on foggy nights, the ghostly figure of a former lighthouse keeper can be seen making his rounds, and the light sometimes behaves erratically. Notable ghost sightings. 1. Al Capone. One of the most famous prisoners of Alcatraz, Al Capone, is said to haunt the prison. Capone spent his last years in the prison playing the banjo in the shower room, and visitors have reported hearing banjo music emanating from the empty prison walls. 2. Robert Stroud, the Birdman of Alcatraz, who spent 54 years in prison, 17 of which were at Alcatraz, is another spirit said to linger. People claim to feel his presence, especially in the areas where he was most active, such as the hospital wing. Unexplained phenomena. In addition to sightings and sounds, there are numerous accounts of unexplained cold spots, sudden drops in temperature, and feelings of being watched or followed. Some visitors report the sensation of being touched or pushed by unseen hands. Others have felt overwhelming emotions of despair or anger when entering certain areas of the prison. 5. Bobby Mackey's Music World, Wilder, Kentucky. Bobby Mackey's Music World, located in Wilder, Kentucky, is often hailed as one of the most haunted places in America. This country music nightclub, owned by musician Bobby Mackey, has a storied past filled with tales of murder, suicide, and paranormal activity. The site has attracted ghost hunters, paranormal investigators, and curious tourists for decades. Originally, the building that houses Bobby Mackey's Music World was constructed in the 1850s. It served various purposes over the years, including a slaughterhouse and a speakeasy. The basement still holds remnants of its gruesome past, such as a well that was allegedly used to dispose of animal blood and remains during its time as a slaughterhouse. This well is often referred to as the portal to hell. One of the most infamous stories associated with Bobby Mackey's involves the gruesome murder of Pearl Bryan in 1896. Pearl was a young woman from a well-to-do family in Indiana. She was murdered by her lover, Scott Jackson, and his friend, Alonzo Walling. The 2 men decapitated her and attempted to hide her identity by discarding her head, which was never found. The legend says that Jackson and Walling were involved in occult practices and that they disposed of Pearl's head in the well, invoking a curse upon the land. Another prominent ghostly figure said to haunt the nightclub is Johanna, a dancer who worked at the club during the 1950s when it was known as the Latin Quarter. Johanna fell in love with a singer named Robert Randall. When her father found out about the affair, he reportedly had Randall killed. Devastated, Johanna poisoned herself in the dressing room. It's believed her spirit lingers, often manifesting as the smell of rose perfume and occasional sightings of a female apparition. The well in the basement, known as the portal to hell, is a focal point for much of the paranormal activity reported at Bobby Mackey's. Many believe that it's a conduit for spirits. Numerous visitors and staff members have reported seeing apparitions near the well, experiencing sudden drops in temperature, and hearing disembodied voices. Visitors and employees have recounted various eerie experiences, such as objects moving on their own, unexplained sounds, and ghostly figures. Some have felt unseen hands touching them or pushing them. The most chilling encounters involve violent physical attacks. Carl Lawson, a former caretaker, claimed to have been possessed by spirits inhabiting the building. His exorcism, which was recorded, further solidified the club's reputation as a paranormal hotspot. Bobby Mackey's has been featured on numerous paranormal investigation shows, including Ghost Adventures and A Haunting. These shows have documented the experiences of investigators who have encountered inexplicable phenomena during their visits. The club's notoriety has only grown with each new account of ghostly activity, making it a popular destination for those interested in the supernatural. Interestingly, Bobby Mackey himself is a skeptic. Despite the countless reports of paranormal activity, he maintains that the stories are exaggerated. Nonetheless, he has embraced the haunted reputation, understanding its appeal to fans and thrill seekers. 4. The Jerome Grand Hotel, Jerome, Arizona. The Jerome Grand Hotel, located in Jerome, Arizona, is one of the most haunted hotels in the United States. This historic building has a rich past, filled with tales of ghostly encounters and unexplained phenomena. Built in 1926, the hotel originally served as the United Verde Hospital and was the largest and most modern hospital in Arizona at the time. The hospital operated until 1950, treating countless patients, many of whom did not survive their ailments. The high number of deaths within the building's walls has contributed to its reputation as a hotspot for paranormal activity. After the hospital closed, the building stood vacant for many years, adding to its eerie atmosphere. In 1994, it was renovated and reopened as the Jerome Grand Hotel. Guests and staff of the hotel have reported numerous sightings and strange occurrences over the years. One of the most common ghostly encounters involves a phantom nurse. Dressed in a white uniform, she has been seen walking the halls and entering rooms, as if still tending to patients. Another frequent sighting is that of a spectral patient, often described as an elderly man in a hospital gown. He is usually seen wandering the corridors, seemingly lost and searching for something. Some guests have even reported hearing the sound of coughing and labored breathing, reminiscent of patients suffering from illness. One of the most well-known spirits said to haunt the hotel is that of Claude Harvey. In 1935, Harvey was found dead in the basement, his body pinned beneath the elevator. The circumstances surrounding his death remain a mystery, with many speculating foul play. His ghost is believed to haunt the basement and the elevator, with reports of the elevator moving on its own and cold spots in the area where his body was found. Room 32 is another focal point for paranormal activity. Guests who have stayed in this room have reported feeling a strange presence, hearing whispers, and witnessing objects moving on their own. Some have even felt an invisible force pressing down on them while they slept, as if someone were sitting on the bed. Throughout the hotel, there are reports of disembodied voices, footsteps, and inexplicable noises. These sounds are often heard in the dead of night, adding to the hotel's spooky ambience. The third floor, in particular, is notorious for these auditory phenomena, with many guests reporting the sound of children laughing and playing, despite no children being present. Many visitors have also experienced sudden drops in temperature, goosebumps, and the feeling of being watched. Some have even reported seeing shadowy figures out of the corner of their eye, only to have them disappear when looked at directly. The elevator in the Jerome Grand Hotel is a focal point for many of the ghost stories. Aside from the tragic death of Claude Harvey, guests and staff have reported the elevator operating on its own, doors opening and closing without explanation, and the feeling of being touched or pushed when inside. Many guests have shared their personal experiences with the paranormal at the Jerome Grand Hotel. Some have described seeing apparitions, while others have felt an overwhelming sense of sadness or unease. The hotel staff has also had their share of ghostly encounters, with several employees reporting that they have seen or felt things they cannot explain. 3. St. Augustine Lighthouse, St. Augustine, Florida. The St. Augustine Lighthouse, located in St. Augustine, Florida, is not only known for its historical and architectural significance but also for its eerie and haunted reputation. Many consider it one of the most haunted lighthouses in America, with numerous reports of paranormal activities and ghost sightings. The current lighthouse was built between 1871 and 1874, replacing the original Spanish watchtower. Tragedy struck during its construction, which is believed to be the origin of many ghostly encounters reported today. The most famous ghost story involves the Pitt sisters, daughters of Hezekiah Pitt, who was the superintendent of lighthouse construction. On July 10, 1873, the children were playing in a cart used to carry materials when it broke loose and plunged into the water, drowning Eliza and Mary Pitt along with a friend. The spirits of these young girls are said to linger at the lighthouse, making it one of the most notable haunted locations. Reported encounters. 1. Children's laughter and footsteps. Many visitors and staff have reported hearing children's laughter, running footsteps, and playful voices, especially near the areas where the children would have played. 2. Appearance of apparitions. There have been numerous sightings of ghostly figures, often believed to be the spirits of the Pitt sisters. They are sometimes seen in period clothing, adding to the historical eeriness. 3. The man in the blue jacket. Another ghost frequently reported is that of a man wearing a blue jacket, thought to be a former lighthouse keeper who died in the late 19th century. He is often seen on the lighthouse grounds, maintaining his eternal vigil. 4. Cold spots and strange noises. Unexplained cold spots, the feeling of being watched, and mysterious noises are common occurrences reported by visitors and paranormal investigators. Personal accounts and experiences. Staff experiences. Lighthouse staff have their own stories of encounters. Some have reported objects moving on their own, doors opening and closing without explanation, and even seeing apparitions during their workday. Visitor encounters. Visitors often leave testimonials about their experiences, such as feeling a sudden chill, hearing disembodied voices, and even capturing ghostly images in their photographs. Specific haunted locations within the lighthouse. The Keeper's House. Many paranormal activities are reported in the restored Keeper's House, where people have felt sudden temperature drops and seen ghostly figures. The Tower. The climb up the 219 steps of the lighthouse can be an eerie experience. Some climbers report feeling a ghostly hand on their shoulder or hearing whispers urging them to keep going or to stop. 2. The Lemp Mansion, St. Louis, Missouri. The Lemp Mansion, located in St. Louis, Missouri, is renowned not only for its historical significance but also for its reputation as one of the most haunted places in America. The tragic history of the Lemp family and the numerous reported paranormal activities have made this mansion a hotspot for ghost hunters and paranormal enthusiasts. The Lemp family, once a powerful and wealthy brewing dynasty, experienced a series of personal tragedies that many believe have led to the mansion's haunted status, which are below. 1. William J. Lemp. The founder of the Lemp Brewery, William J. Lemp, was devastated by the untimely death of his favorite son, Frederick, in 1901. Unable to cope with his grief, William committed suicide in his home office at the mansion in 1904. 2. Elsa Lemp Wright. Elsa, the wealthiest heiress in St. Louis, also died under mysterious circumstances. In 1920, she was found dead in her bed with a gunshot wound. Officially ruled a suicide, some speculate foul play might have been involved. 3. William Lemp Jr. Following in his father's tragic footsteps, William Jr., who had taken over the family business, committed suicide in the mansion in 1922 after facing both personal and professional difficulties. 4. Charles Lemp. The final tragedy occurred in 1949 when Charles Lemp, another family member, shot himself in the mansion, adding to the eerie reputation of the home. The numerous deaths and tragedies that took place within the walls of the Lemp Mansion have led to many reports of paranormal activity. Visitors and staff alike have shared spine-chilling experiences that suggest the spirits of the Lemp family still linger. One of the most common reports involves sightings of ghostly figures. Visitors have claimed to see the apparitions of William J. Lemp, often seen roaming the mansion, particularly near the area where he took his own life. The Lavender Lady, believed to be the spirit of William Lemp Jr.'s wife, Lillian, known for her love of the color lavender. Many have reported hearing inexplicable sounds, including footsteps, Despite no one being there, heavy footsteps are often heard on the stairs and in the hallways. Knocking. Persistent knocking sounds have been reported, particularly on doors that were later found to be untouched. Visitors often experience sudden drops in temperature or cold spots, particularly in the areas where suicides occurred. Some also report feeling an eerie presence, as if being watched. There have been accounts of objects moving on their own, including doors opening and closing. Doors have been observed to open and close without any apparent cause. Items displaced. Personal belongings and furniture are sometimes found in different locations from where they were left. 1. The White House, Washington, D.C. Construction on the White House began in 1792, just a few years after the founding of the United States. It was designed by Irish-born architect James Hoban, who based his neoclassical design on a combination of European palaces and villas. The building was meant to be a grand residence for the nation's president and a symbol of the strength and stability of the new country. President John Adams was the first to move into the White House in 1800. At the time, Washington, D.C., was still a developing city, and the White House itself was not fully completed. But despite its unfinished state, it soon became the center of American political life. Over the years, the White House has undergone many renovations and expansions, with various presidents adding their personal touches. However, its historical and architectural significance has remained unchanged. It wasn't long before the White House became a symbol of the struggles and triumphs of the United States. From the War of 1812, when it was set ablaze by British troops, to the Civil War, the House stood as a witness to the turbulent times of the nation. But beyond its role in history, the White House holds a reputation for something more unusual: hauntings and ghostly encounters. The White House is often said to be haunted, with reports of eerie events, strange sightings, and inexplicable occurrences going back more than a century. Many former residents, staff members, and visitors have claimed to experience something supernatural within its walls. The hauntings seem to be centered around the spirits of past presidents, their family members, and even famous historical figures who had strong connections to the house. Perhaps the most famous of these hauntings is linked to President Abraham Lincoln. Lincoln's presence is one of the most frequently reported, and it is believed that his spirit lingers due to the tragic and unresolved nature of his life. Lincoln led the country through one of its most difficult periods, the Civil War, and was assassinated shortly after it ended. His death left behind many unfinished goals, which some suggest is the reason why his ghost continues to appear at the White House. But Lincoln is not the only ghost rumored to inhabit the White House. Other presidents, first ladies, and even pets are said to make occasional appearances. Let's explore some of the most notable incidents, encounters, and rumors that have been reported over the years. The ghost of Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln's ghost is perhaps the most famous and frequently seen spirit at the White House. Sightings of Lincoln began shortly after his death in 1865, and continue to this day. His spirit is most often seen in the Lincoln bedroom, where he is said to stand by the window, deep in thought. One of the most famous accounts comes from Queen Wilhelmina of the Netherlands, who was staying at the White House during World War II. She claimed to have heard a knock on her door late at night, and when she answered it, she saw the figure of Abraham Lincoln standing before her. In shock, she fainted on the spot. Another famous incident involves Winston Churchill, the British Prime Minister, who reportedly encountered Lincoln's ghost while staying at the White House. According to Churchill, he had just taken a bath and was walking naked into his room when he saw Lincoln sitting by the fireplace. Ever the witty politician, Churchill reportedly remarked, "Good evening, Mr. President. You seem to have me at a disadvantage," before Lincoln's apparition disappeared. The ghost of Abigail Adams. Abigail Adams, the wife of President John Adams, is another spirit said to haunt the White House. During her time there, she often hung her laundry to dry in what is now known as the East Room. Today, staff members and visitors have reported seeing a misty figure resembling Abigail Adams floating through the East Room with her arms outstretched, as if she were carrying laundry. In some instances, People have even claimed to smell the scent of wet laundry or soap in the air when her presence is near. The ghost of Dolly Madison, the wife of President James Madison, is remembered for her charm, wit, and hospitality. She is also believed to haunt the White House gardens. The story goes that during the administration of Woodrow Wilson, First Lady Edith Wilson ordered that Dolly Madison's prized rose garden be dug up. However, the workmen tasked with the job reported seeing Dolly Madison's ghost appear and sternly warned them not to disturb her garden. The workers were so frightened by the apparition that they refused to continue their work, and the garden was left intact. The ghost of Willie Lincoln, Abraham Lincoln's son Willie, who died of typhoid fever at the age of 11 in 1862, is another spirit believed to haunt the White House. Both Abraham and Mary Todd Lincoln were devastated by Willie's death, and it is said that Mary, in particular, often held seances in the White House in an attempt to communicate with her son. Over the years, many have claimed to see the ghost of a young boy who is thought to be Willie. Staff members in the White House have reported hearing the sound of a child laughing and running through the hallways, even when no children were present. Other notable ghosts. The White House is also said to be haunted by the spirits of several other figures from American history. These include President Andrew Jackson, who is often heard stomping and swearing in the Rose Room, and President Thomas Jefferson, who has been seen playing his violin in the Yellow Oval Room. Even the ghost of a British soldier, believed to be one of those who set fire to the White House in 1814, is rumored to haunt the building, wandering the grounds in a dazed state. In addition to ghost sightings, there have been numerous reports of strange noises, cold spots, and objects moving on their own within the White House. Some staff members have reported hearing footsteps in empty hallways, doors slamming shut by themselves, and lights turning on and off without explanation. One particularly eerie event occurred during the administration of Harry S. Truman. In 1946, President Truman wrote a letter to his wife in which he described hearing strange knocks on his bedroom door late at night. When he went to investigate, no one was there. Truman wrote that the sound continued for some time, but he could find no logical explanation for it. The White House has also been the site of numerous seances and spiritual gatherings over the years, particularly during times of national crisis. First Lady Mary Todd Lincoln, in her grief over the loss of her sons, frequently consulted mediums and held seances in the White House in an attempt to communicate with the dead. These seances only added to the building's reputation for being haunted.